The hostess, Katie Evans, barely glanced at him. "Can I help you?" she asked, her tone dripping with impatience. "Just looking for a meal," James replied evenly. Katie raised an eyebrow. "Do you have a reservation?" He almost smirked. He knew the books were packed, but they always kept tables open for VIPs or generous tippers. "No," he said. "But I was hoping you had something." She sighed, tapping her tablet. "It's going to be at least an hour." James glanced around. He spotted two empty tables, ones he knew were reserved for last-minute guests. Before he could call her bluff, a new voice cut in. "I'll handle it, Katie." A tall man in a crisp button-up stepped forward, arms crossed. "Sir, as my hostess said, we're full tonight. There's a burger joint down the street if you're looking for something quick." James felt the sting of dismissal. He expected it, but experiencing it firsthand was a gut punch. "I don't mind waiting," he said. The manager's jaw tightened. "Sir, we maintain a certain vibe here. Most of our guests come for a specific experience. If you're after something casual, the diner is your best bet." Before James could respond, another voice cut in. "I've got him." It was Maya. Her uniform was pristine, but her posture hinted at exhaustion. "The table by the window's free," she said firmly, grabbing a menu. Ryan's face darkened, but she didn't waver. "Come on." She nodded to James, leading him past the glares of her co-workers. As James settled into his chair, the contrast was stark. Other servers ignored him, laughing with well-dressed patrons and refilling wine glasses with flourish. When their eyes flicked his way, it was with disinterest, or worse, disdain. Maya was different. When she returned with his water, she leaned in slightly. "If you're not sure what to order, I can bring you something small. On me." James's chest tightened. He could have bought the entire menu, but he let himself imagine being someone who couldn't. "You don't have to do that." "I know," she said simply, "but I want to." The next evening, James returned, but this time in a tailored navy suit. Katie straightened. "Good evening, sir. Welcome to Carter's Kitchen." James ignored her, his gaze locked on Maya. When she looked up, recognition dawned. Whispers rippled through the staff as James stopped before Ryan. "How many of you knew me last night?" James asked. Silence. "One person showed me kindness," he said, turning to Maya. "You stood up for me when it could have cost you everything." He handed her a card. "General Manager, effective immediately." Ryan stammered. "Sir, you can't be serious." "I am. You're fired." Tears welled in Maya's eyes. "Why me?" James smiled. "Because you saw me when no one else did. Now it's my turn to see you." James Carter sat unnoticed in his own restaurant, his stomach growling as waitstaff bustled around him. Dressed in a faded denim jacket, a threadbare t-shirt, and scuffed boots, he looked nothing like the man who had spent the last 30 years building an empire. His employees, oblivious to his true identity, cast judgmental glances his way. Their eyes lingered on his unkempt appearance, some filled with disapproval. Only one person treated him with kindness, a young waitress named Maya Thompson. She had no idea she was serving the CEO of Carter's Kitchen. 0034. James had started with a single diner in Tulsa, Oklahoma, a small family-run spot he inherited from his parents. Over decades, that humble eatery had blossomed into Carter's Kitchen, a brand synonymous with luxury and refinement, with locations stretching from Seattle to Miami. His restaurants catered to an elite crowd, corporate bigwigs, Hollywood stars, and wealthy families, who demanded flawless service and an exquisite dining experience. Yet, despite his success, something gnawed at him. 111. At first, it had been just a trickle of complaints, an email here, a snarky ex-post there. James dismissed them as outliers, the grumblings of overly sensitive customers. But the feedback grew too consistent to ignore. Lower-income patrons claimed they were treated like second-class citizens at Carter's Kitchen. Stories surfaced of waitstaff ignoring customers who didn't look the part, brushing off anyone who didn't scream, "Big tipper." This wasn't just a business issue. It struck at the core of what James had built. His brand promised quality, not just in food, but in hospitality. If his staff was failing at that, it was personal. 144. One chilly evening in his sleek Denver penthouse, James scrolled through the latest complaint on his phone. "I went to Carter's Kitchen in Boulder last week. I'd saved up for a nice dinner after a brutal month. I wasn't in a suit, just jeans and a hoodie, but I had cash. The staff acted like I was invisible. Waited 25 minutes for a table while they fawned over some guy in a tie. I left feeling like trash. Do better, Carter." James sighed, setting his phone down. He couldn't let this slide. He needed to see it for himself. The next morning, he bypassed his custom suits and polished loafers, instead pulling on an old flannel shirt, a pair of jeans with frayed hems, and a beat-up Broncos cap. A few days of unshaven stubble completed the look. In the mirror, he didn't see James Carter, the multi-millionaire restaurateur. He saw a tired, broke guy who might scrape by on a burger and a Coke. To complete the test, he left his wallet behind, tucking only a few crumpled singles into his pocket. If he was going to assess his staff's kindness, he'd do it without the safety net of wealth. Taking the bus instead of his usual Tesla, he endured sidelong glances and muttered comments from passengers who pegged him as a drifter. By the time he stepped off near the Carter's Kitchen flagship in downtown Denver, the sun was dipping below the Rockies, painting the glass facade in hues of orange and gold. Steeling himself, James pushed open the doors. 327. Carter's Kitchen was a masterpiece of design. Dim chandeliers cast a soft glow, dark wood paneling was accented with brass, and the rich scent of garlic butter and aged steak hung in the air. Waiters in starched black uniforms glided between tables, delivering plates of lobster risotto and glasses of Napa Valley Cabernet. Yet, beneath the polish, James sensed something else, an unspoken pecking order. A couple in designer coats was greeted with wide smiles and ushered to a table within seconds. A man in a pinstriped suit had his chair pulled out before he even asked. But James? He got a different reception.